Hello chaps, welcome to John Robson Guitar Tuition once again. As always, I do hope you're well. Now, today we've got another review for Guitars for Good Causes. This time it's this little beauty, the Harley Benton ST90 Swamp Ash Deluxe S-Type guitar. This guitar has been very generously donated to the campaign by one of the anonymous donors that I mentioned in a previous video. He sent it to me and told me that there were one or two issues with it that needed sorting out, and we'll come to those shortly, but in essence it was a very nice guitar. How nice is it? Well, we'll have a look at the specs in a moment, but first of all, let's hear how she sounds. So, I think we can all agree that it sounds pretty much like what you would expect from an instrument that looks like this. It sounds like the Strat, let's not be coy about this. Usually as well, someone will leave a comment below the videos like this asking what it was I was plugged into. Well, the answer this time is the same as every time. I was using my trusty Vox ToneLab ST. Fantastic little amp modeler. You can pick them up for next to no money at all on eBay, and yeah, just grab one because they're excellent. Anyway, back to the guitar. You will have noticed that in a few of those examples, well, probably most of them, I was kind of ragging on the trem a little bit, and that was because that was one of the issues that needed sorting out. So before we look at the specs for this guitar, let's just take a quick look at what I did to put this guitar back into sort of playable order. The first thing that was wrong with it was there was an electrical fault. There was literally no sound coming from the guitar at all. So obviously the first thing that you kind of suspect there is the output socket. And yeah, it's an output socket. The signal comes out of that socket. Can we please stop referring to it as an input jack? It's an output. Anyway, rant over. Anyway, the socket was fine. Okay, there was nothing wrong with that. No loose wires, no kind of obvious signs of anything amiss. And while the socket was outside of the guitar body, I plugged it in and everything worked fine. It's only when you put the socket back into the body that suddenly the sound cuts out. And the cause of it was the previous owner of this guitar, the guy who very kindly donated it, has done a really good job actually of shielding all the internal cavities, including this one here where the output socket is. And he's used like the copper shielding tape, and what was happening was the tip of the jack plug was shorting out on the copper tape, hence no output. So reach for the trusty musician's Swiss Army knife, a roll of gaffer tape and a little bit of gaffer tape covering the this part of the inner part of this cavity here on top of the copper shielding tape, and now it's insulated perfectly, and as you could hear, no more cutting out, no more silence basically. Okay, the other problem with the guitar is that it was simply untunable. It would not even, well, it's not a question of it wouldn't stay in tune, it wouldn't get in tune to begin with. And the reason for that was the twin bridge posts that you can see in this photograph here. What was up with those was they were very loose and moving around, and as I say, the previous owner had pointed this out to me, and he thought that it was a massive job to have these bridge posts out and, you know, plug the holes, re-drill them, put them back in, and all that kind of associated faffing about and carrying on. But I've seen this problem before and I know exactly how to fix it. All you need, excuse me, is one of these, a bin liner, just a regular old plastic bag, or even an old Tesco carrier bag will do you. That's all you're going to need, because the bridge posts don't kind of go into the body, they screw into threaded inserts that are set into the body. And those inserts were absolutely rock solid, fine. The slackness and the movement came from the bridge posts actually wobbling about a little bit inside the threaded collars that they screw into. So, and this is a tip you can do on if you've got an old style screw-in tremolo arm and that's kind of rattly and loose. Just get yourself a bit of plastic like this, put it over the hole that you need to screw into, and then just twist the in this case the bridge post or tremolo arm or whatever into the hole, taking the little bit of plastic with you. You're not going to cause any damage. A flimsy little piece of plastic like that is not going to damage anything made of metal. What happens is that the plastic finds its way into the threads and just takes up any slack in the threads, and now it's absolutely bomb-proof, bulletproof, you know, rock solid. You could also use plumber's tape, that would work pretty well as well. I've used that before, but I didn't have any to hand, so a plastic bag will work fine. I was actually going to do a video of me putting that right, but I was in a hurry and the battery on the camera was flat, and you know, I thought I'd describe it to you because it's pretty easy to visualize. So that's what needed sorting out on the guitar. Shall we go and have a look at what the specifications are for it? I think we should. Okay, then let's have a look at the specs for this guitar. Scrolling down, we can see that it has an American swamp ash body, a bolt-on neck from Canadian maple, a C-neck profile. Interestingly, it's still listed as having a rosewood fretboard, as opposed to roseacre or the Ovencol substitutes that they're using nowadays. 350mm neck radius, or fretboard radius rather, which means it's kind of nice and modern and flat feeling. 22 frets. I can attest to the fact that they are on the jumbo side of medium jumbo, and all the rest of the stuff here, the scale length, standard Fender 648mm, which comes out in old money as 25.5 inches. Double action truss rod. The new guitars will have 3 Roswell STA Alnico 5 vintage ST single coils, okay? Basically 3 proper Strat pickups with Alnico magnets. The guitar that we're looking at in this video today has the old style Wilkinson pickups, which are still Alnico magnet. Then all the usual stuff for a Strat type guitar: 1 volume, 2 tone controls, 5-way pickup switch, a nice tortoiseshell pickguard that I am quite partial to, I must admit, chromed DLX hardware. Yep, okay, so it's a chrome finish on the hardware. A 2-point tremolo system, not my favourite style of trem, but it does have its fans. Vintage style machine heads, which is a little bit odd, I find, because it's everything else about this guitar. If we just look at it with the modern trem and kind of the modern looking finish to it in general, everything else kind of screams modern Strat. So why they've chosen to put the old school vintage Kluson style machine heads on it, I do not know. Nothing wrong with them, they work fine. I don't have a problem with them. Strung with 9-42 D'Addarios. Okay, that's not going to be true of this guitar, because as I mentioned, I've had to do a bit of a setup on it and put some fresh strings on, so you're going to be getting one with Ernie Ball 10-46 strings on it. But there you go, that's what's happening with this guitar. Okay, a few final observations, then I'll leave you in peace. I quite like this guitar for a number of reasons. There's 1 or 2 things I'm not so keen on, and we'll come to those. But the plus column way outweighs the minus column, if you see what I mean. I like the feel of the neck. It's a very comfortable, modern feeling neck. I like the frets. The fretwork is absolutely fine. There's no buzzing or choking or anything like that anywhere along the neck. And this guitar is, as I said, it's a used guitar. I believe the previous owner told me that it's a couple of years old, which means that if you were going to get any of that kind of nasty sharp fret ends kind of poking out, fret sprout as they call it, it would have happened by now, and it hasn't. Like all Harley Benton guitars, it has an absolutely gorgeous nut. It's cut beautifully well, lovely soft low buttery action at the first fret, and the rest of the way up the neck, it has to be said. It sounds really nice for what it is. It's it sounds like the Strat. If you're looking for a classy looking Strat type guitar and you've only got about 150 quid to spend, you can buy one of these new, or you could buy this one, which we'll come to shortly. If it were my guitar, the bridge pickup would go. I'm not a big fan of the single coil bridge pickup on a Strat. I just think it just needs a little bit more guts in that position there, but that's just my preference. Plenty of other people get on fine with a single coil bridge pickup on a Strat. The other thing I'm not so keen on is the modern twin pivot trem. I'm not a big trem user anyway, but if I do have a guitar with a trem on, I find that I prefer the old-fashioned 6-screw pivot thing, a traditional Strat bridge basically. But this works well for what it does. Tuning stability is about as good as you're going to get on any non-locking system. You can give it a little bit of welly, but you can't go silly with it. You can't kind of play dive bombs and all that kind of 80s hair metal spandex clad shreddy sort of stuff on it and expect it to come back in tune. But for musical little warbles, works absolutely fine. The tuners on this guitar, the vintage Kluson style tuners that I mentioned earlier when we were looking at the spec, these have a nice positive action to them. You remember on the ST70, the black paisley one, I mentioned the tuners on that were a little bit lumpy feeling. Not so with this. They have a nice kind of positive feel to them. All the controls do exactly what you expect them to do with a minimum of fuss, and it feels like you're playing a pretty high-end guitar, it has to be said. You've got that lovely kind of glassy transparency from the Alnico pickups. It's a really rather nice Strat. I would happily put this up against anything costing the high hundreds, like maybe one of the high-end Mexican Fenders or something. It is in that kind of ballpark in terms of quality and playability. So there you go. if you want to own this guitar, and frankly, why wouldn't you, then where are we now? It's Wednesday today. I'll probably get this video finished and edited together on Thursday. So this guitar will be going up on eBay on the, let me just have a look at the date. What date is it today? It's the 16th, is it today? Yes, it's the 16th today, so this will be going up on eBay on Friday the 19th of May at 9:30 AM UK time. So if you want to own this guitar, you know where to look. I will obviously put a link in the description box below. And just to remind you, this guitar is being auctioned in aid of Guitars for Good Causes, which is a GoFundMe campaign that I've started, which the proceeds from this guitar and all the other Guitars for Good Causes equipment that I'm reviewing go to Zoe's Place, which is a charity in Middlesbrough which provides palliative, respite and end-of-life care to children under 5 with terminal illnesses. So a fantastically worthy and deserving cause, and anybody who buys this guitar will be contributing to that cause. So yes, I hope you're feeling generous. This is a used guitar, so it will be priced accordingly on eBay. These things cost, as I say, about 147 quid plus change plus shipping if you buy one new from Tom Ant. So you know, it's going to be a used guitar. I'll need to price it accordingly, so you could just grab yourself a fantastic guitar that's been properly sorted out, set up. It's in absolutely mint condition, and you might just get a bargain, and you'll be helping Zoe's Place as well. What's not to like there? And finally, I'll sign off now by saying, if you would like some tailored one-to-one guitar tuition, give me a shout via the details at the end of this video. If you live on Teesside in the northeast of England, you can come along for a face-to-face lesson, or wherever you are in the world, you can have a lesson via Skype, and whichever way you do it, your first lesson is of course free. So you got nothing to lose really. And with that, I'll bid you all good day, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now, folks.